Hello, my name is Devin Salmon from MxV Rail, and I'm recording this video just prior to the mid-year release of Nucars for our users. And I wanted to highlight some of the features of the Nucars UI that you'll see in this upcoming release. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so what I have here is a modified L-hopper model, and I've done so just to demonstrate some of the new features of the UI. I'm going to start off by pointing out that it shouldn't look drastically different in terms of the feel and the way that you interact with it. But what we did do is upgrade the graphics, tools, and engine behind the UI to allow us to make use of the graphics card inside of your PC, as well as give us access to some features that we previously couldn't do just due to limitations of the way we'd implemented it. So right off the bat, you'll see that the view cube looks slightly different. Previously, you could click on front, left, right, and it would move you to those views. We've also added the ability, if you click on these yellow boxes, to take yourself to an isometric view. In addition to that isometric view, we've made some changes to the way that bodies are represented in specific views. The wireframe for each body has been updated. So now if I click on this main body and choose to display it as a wireframe, you'll see that there's a very thin wireframe representation of the body. Previously, we used a thicker, more tube-like wireframe, but we feel like this gives the user a little bit more ability to see through the body and use the wireframe a little bit more as intended, potentially. So in addition to that wireframe change, we've also allowed our users to represent the bodies in a slightly more detailed way. And users can do so by finding this representation field within the properties grid. And if you click on the dropdown, you'll see that there are multiple body types that you can display. For this example, I'm going to use the open wagon. And you'll see that the main body is going to change to something that's more detailed, more representative of an open top car that our users can use to show other people who aren't as familiar with the software and give them a little bit more presentation worthy type material. Now, I did make some changes to L-hopper, and one of those includes changing the CG and the geometric center. So the center of gravity and the geometric center, I've now separated those two and they aren't represented by the same location. Users can do this by clicking the CG equals geometric center box. This has been here for a while, but now with the modified representations for bodies, this becomes more important, so I wanted to draw your attention to it. Zoom out here, and I'm going to temporarily hide this main body so that I can show you, in addition to those car bodies, we've also given you representations for the bolsters. So I've selected both bolster bodies here, gone down to representation, and modified those to be a bolster representation. In addition to that bolster representation, we've also given you the opportunity to model or represent side frames. So I'm going to also change those out. Okay, now, as we look closely, you can see that the trucks are now represented by something that looks much more like your standard three-piece truck. We will in the future be looking into how to add more representations and potentially give our users the opportunity to represent their own bodies. But for right now, we're just releasing these canned bodies that are represented within Nucars UI and come within the package. So I'm going to unhide this main body. Let's show all bodies up top there. And those are the big changes for the representations of the bodies and the graphic. I'm going to go through a slightly longer process to generate a run file here. so that I can also show you the modifications to how exaggerated the movements during a playback is. So right here, I'm gonna go in and generate a sys file. Perfect. Yep, we'll replace that. And then I'm gonna come in here, put in a run file name. Add a dat file, add an IMP file. Gonna add a constant velocity. And I'm gonna make this a distance simulation because that's what I have set up. Choose a WNT. Go. And all the rest of this can remain the same. Okay. I'm not gonna associate it just because I want to be able to use this in the future for other models. So now it's called up Nucars, and our simulation's finished. Okay, now Nucars UI is pulling in all of the video data, and it's now populated. Okay, so now I'm going to change the view just a little bit so that we can see this. Previously, in the playback, we had a fixed amount of exaggeration to the body motions. Now we've given our users the opportunity to modify those. By default, they will show up as a one scale factor on the translation and a 1 scale factor on the rotation. These can be modified by clicking these blue gears, as I did just a second ago, and bringing this up. I'm going to go ahead and leave these as is. I'm going to play through the video so you can see how that looks, and then I'm going to exaggerate these two so that we can see how it looks and as you change them and make modifications. So we'll continue that, play this back. And you should notice very little motion. You can see it now rocking back and forth. That's as expected because the car body isn't going through very large gross motions. Now that's great for trying to understand how the body's actually moving in real life. But if you really wanted to zoom in on something, you might change the scale factor to maybe something a little bit larger. So let's try 8 and 4. Now what you'll see is the UI is going to recalculate the frames and show the video again. So if we hit stop, we'll come back. And now, as it begins to play, you can already see the exaggerated motion vertically, and now you can see the rocking back and forth that's occurring in an exaggerated way for this simulation so that you can understand a little bit more where the big motions are coming from. Now, one more thing I want to touch on just before I close out this video is we did start running the validation checks in the background. So previously, on occasion, if we had a very big model, our users might see some slowdown because we were validating many pieces of the model over and over with each change. Now those validations are happening in parallel in the background. So I'll give you an example of this. This coupler ground right here is a slightly longer name than will display fully in a multi-view simulation if you output this connection. So I'm going to remove a few of the letters. And if you watch down here in this video, you will see that there is a validation check run, and then very quickly it finishes also. So it ran those validation checks and then finished and gave you indications that that had occurred. We hope that this will speed up some of your interactions with the UI, particularly for larger models. Okay, so that's just a brief preview of some of the things you're going to see in the Nucars UI in the next release. I hope you're very excited about it. We'd love to hear your feedback. I know many of you are interested in implementing your own bodies. We will be working on that in the future. In addition to that, we'll be looking at doing playback without having to run the simulation within the UI. So much like CarView works, for those of you that have used that before, you'll select a sys file and an out file, and be able to play back that simulation, assuming that you have all the appropriate outputs selected. So can't wait to release that to you, and I hope this new release gives you lots of excitement and joy around Nucars, and we can't wait to hear from you. Thank you so much.